The industrial belt around Seraph 9 never slept. Aaron Cole knew this better than most, having spent the last 3 years salvaging parts from the massive ship graveyard that orbited the planet like a metallic reef. Today was no different, or so he thought, as he navigated his cramped workshop between towers of sorted components and bins of rare alloys. The morning shift had brought in a promising haul: 2 intact quantum stabilizers from a decommissioned transport, enough platinum wire to keep him in business for a month, and what looked like a perfectly functional atmospheric processor that some fool had thrown out because of a blown fuse. Aaron wiped the grease from his hands and allowed himself a small smile. It wasn't glamorous work, but it was honest. More importantly, it was far from the mining operations that had taken everything from him. Through the grimy viewport, Seraph 9's 3 suns cast their combined light across the salvage yards, creating a kaleidoscope of shadows that danced between the hulking carcasses of dead ships. The holographic advertisements flickered endlessly above promises of new lives in the outer colonies, recruitment posters for the Aurelian fleet, and warnings about the increasing refugee crisis that had gripped the Empire for the past 6 months. Aaron tried not to think about the crisis. He had his own problems, his own ghosts to wrestle with. The accident at Gamma Station had been 4 years ago, but the wounds were still fresh. Maya's laugh still echoed in his dreams, her voice calling out warnings that came too late. The official report blamed equipment failure, but Aaron knew better. Sable Karn and his Meridian Array Corporation had cut every corner possible in those mining tunnels. Safety protocols were expensive, and dead miners couldn't testify. A sudden crash outside pulled him from his brooding. Aaron looked up from the atmospheric processor, frowning. The salvage yard had its share of accidents: massive cranes moving multi-ton hulks, plasma cutters slicing through reinforced steel. But this sound was different, lighter, more organic. He stepped outside his workshop, squinting against the harsh triple-sun glare. A small crowd had gathered near the loading dock, their voices carrying a note of panic that made Aaron's instincts kick in. Years of emergency response in the mines had trained him to move toward danger, not away from it. Pushing through the crowd, Aaron found the source of the commotion. A young girl, no more than 12 or 13, lay crumpled against a shipping container. But this was no ordinary child. From her back sprouted 2 magnificent wings, each easily 6 feet in span when fully extended. The feathers shimmered with an iridescent quality that marked her as Airy, the winged subspecies that formed the nobility of the Aurelian Empire. One wing hung at an unnatural angle, several primary feathers bent and broken. The girl's face was pale beneath her golden skin, her breathing shallow. A damaged cargo drone lay nearby, its navigation array sparking fitfully. "Someone call medical," a dock worker shouted. "Are you crazy?" another responded. "That's Airy nobility. We touch her wrong. We're looking at Imperial prison." Aaron knelt beside the girl, his hands already moving in the practiced patterns of field assessment he'd learned in the mines. The wing wasn't just broken, the main flight joint had been dislocated, probably when the drone clipped her in mid-flight. He could see the swelling already beginning. "Hey there," he said softly, catching the girl's attention. Her eyes fluttered open, revealing irises the color of liquid amber. "I'm Aaron. You've had a bit of a tumble." "My wing," she whispered, trying to move and crying out in pain. "Yeah, I can see that. Listen, I'm going to help you, but I need you to stay very still. Can you do that for me?" She nodded, tears streaming down her face. Aaron turned to the crowd. "I need someone to get me a medical kit from Bay 7, and someone else bring me the portable 3D printer from my workshop, the blue case beside the door." "You're going to touch an Airy," a voice called out incredulously. "I'm going to help a hurt kid," Aaron shot back. "Unless anyone here has a better idea." The medical kit arrived first. Aaron carefully cleaned the wounds where feathers had been torn, working with the delicate precision he usually reserved for microcircuitry. The girl watched him with those remarkable eyes, occasionally wincing, but remarkably brave for someone so young. "What's your name?" Aaron asked, partly to distract her, and partly because he was curious. It wasn't every day airy nobility ended up in the salvage districts. "Nia," she said simply, offering no family name or title. "Well, Naya, you picked an interesting place to crash land. This is going to hurt for just a second, but then it'll feel much better. I'm going to reset your wing joint." "You know how to fix wings?" she asked, a note of hope creeping into her voice. Aaron chuckled. "I fix everything else around here. How different can wings be from a servo joint? Besides, I once had to splint a Calarian's third arm with nothing but cargo straps and a fusion welder. You're in good hands." "That's not very reassuring," Nia said, but there was the hint of a smile on her lips. "Would you prefer I tell you I'm actually a trained veterinarian who specializes in mythical creatures?" "Are you?" "Absolutely not. I fix spaceships. But lucky for you, everything in the universe runs on the same basic principles: leverage, tension, structural support. Your wing is just a very elegant piece of biological engineering." The 3D printer arrived, and Aaron quickly designed a custom splint using his tablet, adjusting the specifications based on what he could see of the wing structure. As the printer hummed to life, creating the lightweight support structure, he continued to keep Nia talking. "So, what brings airy nobility to our humble salvage yard? Last I checked, your people usually stick to the Spire districts." Nia's expression clouded. "I was exploring." "Exploring?" Aaron raised an eyebrow. "In the industrial zone, during a Category 3 solar storm warning." "I wanted to see the refugees," she admitted quietly. "Mother says they're causing all sorts of problems, but I wanted to see for myself. They're just people. Aren't they people who need help?" Aaron's hands paused for a moment in their work. The innocence in her voice, the genuine concern, it reminded him painfully of Maya. His sister had always been the idealist, always believing people were better than they seemed. "Yeah," he said finally. "They're just people. And you're right, they need help. But flying around the industrial zone alone is dangerous, especially with the drone traffic." "I'm usually very good at flying," Nia protested. "I'm sure you are. But even the best pilot can't dodge a malfunctioning drone with a fried navigation system." The printer chimed completion, and Aaron carefully removed the custom splint. "All right, this is going to smart. On 3. 1, 2. He reset the joint on 2. Nia yelped, but didn't pull away, and Aaron quickly fitted the splint, using medical tape to secure it around the delicate bone structure. The advanced materials would provide support while allowing some flexibility, and the built-in biosensors would monitor the healing process. "There," he said, sitting back on his heels. "Give it a few weeks and you'll be good as new. Though you might want to avoid any more urban exploration for a while." Nia flexed her wing experimentally, wincing slightly, but looking amazed. "It already feels better. How did you know how to do that?" "Like I said, everything's got the same basic principles. Although," Aaron grinned, "don't tell anyone I compared your wing to a servo joint. I have a feeling that's probably insulting to your people." "Only a little," Nia smiled back. "But I won't tell if you won't." The moment of levity was shattered by the arrival of Aurelian Imperial Guards. A dozen of them, in full, ceremonial armor that seemed wildly out of place in the grimy salvage yard. Their leader, a stern-faced woman with silver wings, surveyed the scene with sharp eyes. "Your Highness," she said, and Aaron felt his stomach drop as every guard dropped to one knee. "Your mother has been concerned." "Your Highness, not nobility royalty." Aaron had just performed field medicine on a member of the imperial family with all the casual irreverence of patching up a drunk dock worker. Nia stood carefully, testing her injured wing. "Captain Thara, I can explain. Later, Your Highness. We must return you to the palace immediately. As the guards formed up around Nia, she turned back to Aaron. Thank you, she said simply, for everything. Aaron nodded, still processing the revelation. He watched as she was escorted to an ornate transport that had somehow landed in the salvage yard without him noticing. Just before the doors closed, another figure emerged, a woman in flowing robes, her face hidden behind an elaborate golden mask that marked her as high nobility. She approached Aaron with measured steps, and the remaining crowd melted away, as if repelled by an invisible force. When she spoke, her voice carried an accent he couldn't place, melodious and commanding. You aided my daughter, she said. It wasn't a question. Aaron found his voice. She was hurt. Anyone would have done the same. No, the woman said softly. They wouldn't have. The crowd was content to watch and worry about protocol. You acted. You helped her without knowing who she was, without thought of reward or punishment. I just did what needed doing. The masked woman studied him for a long moment. What is your name? Aaron Cole. Aaron Cole, she repeated, as if tasting the words. By the laws of our empire, a debt is owed. You have rendered aid to the imperial family, and such service must be acknowledged. Tomorrow, you will come to the Spire of Dawn. My herald will send details to your comm unit. That's really not necessary. It is entirely necessary, she interrupted, though not unkindly. You saved my daughter's wing, possibly her life. Among my people, the ability to fly is not merely transportation, it is our identity, our freedom. A grounded Aerie is only half alive. You have returned her to the sky. She turned to leave, then paused. Besides, Mr. Cole, I suspect we will have much to discuss. The refugee situation grows worse by the day, and I find myself in need of perspectives beyond the palace walls. Someone who acts first and worries about protocol later might be exactly what these negotiations require. Before Aaron could respond, she was gone, swept away in another transport that lifted off with barely a whisper. He stood in the sudden quiet of the salvage yard, the crowd having dispersed back to their work, leaving him with the distinct feeling that his life had just become significantly more complicated. Back in his workshop, Aaron tried to return to the atmospheric processor, but his hands wouldn't focus on the work. He kept thinking about Nia's question. They're just people who need help, aren't they? It was exactly the sort of thing Maya would have said. His sister had always been the one to see past politics and prejudice to the human heart of any problem. The comm unit on his desk chimed with an official message. The seal of the Aurelian Empire glowed on the display, followed by elegantly scripted text inviting him to an audience at the palace tomorrow. Not requesting, not suggesting, expecting. Aaron stared at the message for a long time. He'd spent 3 years hiding in the salvage yards, avoiding anything that might bring him to the attention of the authorities or, worse, Meridian Array. Now, in the space of an hour, he'd been thrust into the center of imperial politics. But there had been something in the masked woman's voice when she mentioned the refugees. A weariness. Perhaps even desperation. The crisis was worse than the holographic advertisements suggested he'd seen that much from the overcrowded temporary shelters visible from the yard. Climate refugees from the outer colonies, displaced by the increasingly erratic weather patterns that everyone blamed on someone else. Aaron knew the real culprit. The Helioshield Project, Meridian Array's crown jewel, designed to regulate stellar radiation for optimal agricultural yields. Except Sable Karn had cut corners there too, just like in the mines. The focusing arrays were built with substandard materials. The safety protocols were inadequate, and the result was catastrophic weather shifts on the frontier worlds. He'd tried to blow the whistle after Maya's death. But who would listen to a grieving brother with no evidence? Karn had an army of lawyers and a publicity machine that could spin any story. Aaron had retreated into the anonymous life of a salvage tech, nursing his wounds and his anger in equal measure. Now, perhaps, he had a chance to do something. If the imperial family was involved in the refugee negotiations, if they were looking for new perspectives. Aaron picked up the small holoframe on his desk, the only personal item in his Spartan workshop. Maya smiled back at him, frozen in time at her university graduation, her mining engineer certification held proudly in her hands. She'd been so excited to make a difference, to bring safety innovations to the frontier operations. "They're just people who need help," he murmured, echoing Nia's words. "Right, Maya." The holo didn't answer, but Aaron felt something shift inside him nonetheless. For 3 years he'd been running, hiding, existing, but not living. Maybe it was time to stop. He sent a brief acknowledgement to the palace comm system, confirming he would attend tomorrow's audience. Then, with renewed purpose, he turned back to the atmospheric processor. If he was going to meet with the imperial family, he might as well finish fixing the unit. The refugee shelters could use it, and it would be good to walk into that palace having done something useful with his day. As he worked, Aaron's mind drifted to young Nia and her damaged wing. She'd been brave, braver than most adults he knew, and curious about the world beyond her privileged existence. It gave him hope that not all of the Empire's leadership was blind to the suffering at its edges. The splint he designed would need checking in a few days. He made a mental note to fab a few spares, just in case. After all, if the princess was prone to exploring, she might need them. Outside his workshop, the salvage yard continued its eternal dance of destruction and reclamation. Ships were broken down, their useful parts sorted and catalogued, their materials recycled into new purposes. It was a fitting metaphor, Aaron thought. Sometimes things had to be broken before they could be rebuilt into something better. Tomorrow, he would walk into the Spire of Dawn, the heart of imperial power on Seraph 9. He had no idea what to expect, what the Empress truly wanted from him. But for the first time in 3 years, Aaron Cole felt like he had a purpose beyond mere survival. As the three suns began their sequential setting, painting the industrial zone in shades of copper and gold, Aaron finished the last connections on the atmospheric processor. It hummed to life with a satisfied purr, ready to scrub air for people who desperately needed it. One fixed thing at a time, he said to himself, unconsciously echoing advice Maya had given him years ago when he'd felt overwhelmed by the scope of the galaxy's problems. That's how we make it better. One fixed thing at a time. The comm unit chimed again details for tomorrow's palace visit. Aaron glanced at them, noting with wry amusement that they'd sent an entire protocol document about proper behavior in the imperial presence. He wondered if there was a section about performing unauthorized veterinary medicine on royal children. Probably not. But then again, he'd already broken that rule. What was a little more improper behavior if it meant actually helping people? Aaron Cole, salvage tech and accidental royal physician, settled in for a long night of preparation. He had a feeling tomorrow was going to be the beginning of something much larger than a simple thank you visit. The masked woman who he was now certain had been the Empress herself had spoken of negotiations and new perspectives. Well, if they wanted the perspective of someone who'd seen the worst of corporate greed and the best of human resilience, they'd certainly picked the right person. Aaron cracked his knuckles and got to work. He had some research to do on the refugee crisis, and maybe, if he was very careful, some old files about HelioShield to review. After all, one fixed thing at a time didn't mean you couldn't prepare to fix the big things too. Chapter 2. The Door to Negotiation. The Spire of Dawn rose from Seraph 9's surface, like a crystalline needle threading the sky. Aaron had seen it countless times from the salvage yards, but standing at its base made him feel insignificant in a way that space travel never had. The structure twisted upward for nearly 2 kilometers, its surface catching and refracting the light of the three suns in patterns that seemed to shift with each viewing angle. Security was extensive, but efficient. Aaron's credentials were checked 4 times before he even reached the main entrance. Each checkpoint seemed designed to remind visitors of their place in the imperial hierarchy, from the towering guards, with their ceremonial weapons, to the silent scribes who recorded every detail of his appearance and purpose. "Mr. Cole," a melodious voice called out as he entered the reception chamber. A woman in deep blue robes approached, her movements graceful, despite the complex diagnostic equipment she carried. "I am Dr. Leora Ash, technical advisor to the Imperial Court. Her Majesty asked me to escort you." Aaron studied her as she approached. Dr. Ash appeared to be in her early 40s, with the kind of weathered competence that came from fieldwork rather than laboratories. Her hair was pulled back in a practical style, and her robes bore subtle signs of modification: extra pockets, reinforced seams, clips for tools. This was someone who worked with her hands. "Dr. Ash," he acknowledged. "I wasn't expecting a technical advisor." She smiled, and he noticed the laugh lines around her eyes. "Given the nature of your invitation, Her Majesty thought it best to have someone who speaks your language. I understand you're something of an engineer yourself." "Salvage and repair," Aaron said modestly. "Nothing as sophisticated as Imperial technology."
"Oh, I wouldn't be so sure. I've reviewed the splint design you fabricated for Princess Nia. The biofeedback integration was particularly clever. Self-adjusting tension based on healing progress."
Aaron felt a flush of professional pride. The princess mentioned she was still growing. I figured the splint should grow with her. "Brilliant. We've already added the design to our medical database. With your permission, of course." The palace physicians were quite impressed. As she led him through corridors that seemed to be carved from single pieces of opalescent stone, Dr. Ash kept up a steady stream of technical discussion. Aaron found himself relaxing, despite the overwhelming grandeur of his surroundings. Here was someone who understood the satisfaction of a well-designed solution. "Tell me," she said as they entered a lift that moved so smoothly, Aaron barely felt the acceleration. "What do you know about the current refugee situation?" The sudden shift in topic caught him off guard. "Probably less than I should. The news feeds say it's a temporary displacement due to solar activity fluctuations." Dr. Ash's expression tightened. "The news feeds say many things. The reality is somewhat more complex. But I'll let Her Majesty explain. She has a particular interest in your perspective." The lift opened onto a chamber that took Aaron's breath away. The walls were transparent aluminum, offering a panoramic view of Seraph Nima's industrial sprawl below and the starfield above. In the center of the room, a holographic display showed a 3-dimensional map of the Aurelian Empire, with pulsing red zones indicating what Aaron assumed were refugee flows. Empress Seraphine stood before the display, no longer wearing her golden mask. She was younger than Aaron had expected, perhaps only a decade older than himself, with the same amber eyes as her daughter. Her wings, folded elegantly behind her, shimmered with deep purple and gold hues. "Mr. Cole," she said, turning to face him, "thank you for accepting our invitation." Aaron bowed, hoping he was following proper protocol. "Your Majesty, please, in this room. Such formality is unnecessary. You helped my daughter when protocol would have let her suffer. I prefer directness to ceremony." She gestured to the holographic display. "Tell me, what do you see?" Aaron studied the map, noting the patterns of movement. Massive displacement from the outer colonies, all flowing inward toward the core worlds. The timescale suggests this started about 8 months ago.
7 months and 16 days,
the Empress confirmed. "Beginning with the agricultural colonies in the frontier reaches. What else?" "The pattern is consistent with systemic failure rather than random events. Each wave of refugees triggers the next, as resources are depleted." Aaron moved closer to the display, his engineer's mind already analyzing. This isn't solar fluctuation. This is infrastructure collapse. Very good. And what infrastructure do all these colonies share? Aaron's blood chilled. He knew the answer, had known it the moment he saw the pattern. Helioshield. They're all protected by the Helioshield network.
Protected, the Empress said bitterly, is hardly the word I would use. Dr. Ash, please show Mr. Cole the technical data.
Dr. Ash manipulated the display, bringing up technical readouts that made Aaron's worst suspicions concrete. Thermal regulation failures, atmospheric ionization spikes, cascade failures in the magnetic field generators. It was all there in damning detail. The secondary focusing arrays, Aaron said, his voice tight with controlled anger. They're failing in sequence. Substandard materials in the mounting brackets cause thermal expansion beyond tolerance. Once one fails, it increases the load on adjacent arrays.
You speak as someone familiar with the system,
Dr. Ash observed carefully. Aaron paused, weighing his words. I had a sister who was an engineer. She worked on mining safety systems. But the principles are the same. Always worried about cascade failures. The Empress studied him with those penetrating amber eyes.
Had a sister. I'm sorry for your loss.
Industrial accident. 4 years ago. The half-truth came easily after so much practice. I see. The Empress moved to a seating area near the transparent wall, gesturing for Aaron and Dr. Ash to join her. Let me be frank. Mr. Cole, the refugee crisis threatens to tear the Empire apart. We have 17 million displaced persons and more arriving daily. The core worlds don't have the infrastructure to absorb them all.
And Meridian Array, Aaron asked, trying to keep his voice neutral.
Claims the failures are due to unprecedented solar activity. They have teams of lawyers and public relations specialists spinning every failure as an act of nature. The Empress's wings rustled with agitation. CEO Sable Karn himself assured the Imperial Council just yesterday that their systems are functioning within acceptable parameters. Aaron's hands clenched involuntarily. The same lies, the same deflection of responsibility, just like the mining accident. Your Majesty, Dr. Ash interjected. Perhaps we should explain why we've asked Mr. Cole here specifically. The Empress nodded. In 2 days, we convene the Relief and Reconstruction Accord negotiations. Every major corporation, colonial government, and advocacy group will be represented. The goal is to establish a framework for managing the crisis resource allocation, temporary settlements, and most importantly, fixing the root cause. You want me to testify about the technical failures? Aaron asked.
More than that, the Empress said. I want you as an independent technical consultant to the Safety Subcommittee. Someone with no corporate ties, no political agenda, someone who fixes things because they need fixing.
Aaron felt the weight of the request. Your Majesty, I'm a salvage tech. You have entire departments of Imperial engineers.
Who are bound by politics, corporate relationships, and fear of retribution.
Dr. Ash finished.
We need someone who will speak truth without calculating the cost.
Besides, a familiar voice piped up from the doorway. You fixed my wing. That makes you qualified in my book. Princess Nia entered, her injured wing still supported by Aaron's splint, but looking much better than yesterday. She moved carefully, but with obvious determination. Nia, the Empress said warningly, you're supposed to be resting.
I've been resting all morning. I wanted to thank Mr. Cole properly.
She turned to Aaron with a smile. The palace physicians say your splint is better than anything they would have designed. It barely hurts at all now. Just doing what needed doing, Aaron said, echoing his words from yesterday.
Exactly, the Empress said meaningfully. That's precisely the attitude we need. The negotiations will be contentious. Various factions will try to shift blame, minimize costs, and protect their interests. We need someone who will cut through that and focus on solutions.
Aaron stood and walked to the holographic display, studying the refugee patterns again. Each red pulse represented thousands of families displaced, lives disrupted. People like Maya, who had simply been in the wrong place when corporate greed met physical reality. "What authority would I have?" he asked finally. "Full access to technical data, the right to demand documentation, and a seat at the negotiation table," the Empress replied. "The position comes with diplomatic immunity for the duration of the conference. And after,
That depends on what we accomplish."
Aaron turned to face them. The Empress watched him with cautious hope, Dr. Ash with professional interest, and young Nia with the absolute confidence of a child who had decided someone was worth trusting. "I'll need my own tools and diagnostic equipment," he said. "And access to the actual helioshield installations, not just reports." "Done," the Empress agreed immediately. "And I want to visit the refugee camps. If I'm going to speak for safety, I need to see the human cost firsthand." "I'll arrange it myself," Dr. Ash said. "In fact, I'd welcome the company. I've been conducting medical assessments there." "Then I accept," Aaron said simply. Nia clapped, then winced as the movement jostled her wing.
"I knew you would, Mother. Can I go with them to the camps?"
"Absolutely not," the Empress said firmly. "Your wing needs at least another week of healing."
"But I want to help."
"You have helped," Aaron interjected.
"You asked the right question yesterday. They're just people who need help. That's why I'm here."
The princess beamed at him, and Aaron felt something warm unfurl in his chest. It had been a long time since anyone had looked at him with such uncomplicated trust. The Empress stood, signaling the formal end to the meeting. "Dr. Ash will coordinate with you on the technical requirements. The first preparatory session is tomorrow morning. Mr. Cole." "Aaron, thank you." As Dr. Ash led him back through the palace, she said quietly, "You handled that well. Not many people can navigate a conversation with both Her Majesty and the princess without putting a foot wrong."
"I just told the truth."
"Yes," she said with a slight smile. "That's what made it remarkable. I look forward to working with you. Aaron, I have a feeling this conference is going to need all the truth-tellers it can get." They had reached a technical laboratory that made Aaron's fingers itch with the desire to explore. Dr. Ash noticed his interest and gestured broadly. "This is where we'll be preparing. Feel free to familiarize yourself with the equipment. I have some diagnostic runs from the failed helioshield arrays that might interest you." For the next 3 hours, Aaron lost himself in data analysis and technical discussion with Dr. Ash. She was brilliant, with the kind of practical intelligence that could bridge the gap between theory and application. They found an easy working rhythm, building on each other's observations. "The mounting bracket composition," Aaron said, highlighting a metallurgical report. "Look at the actual percentages versus the specification. 15% less titanium than required," Dr. Ash confirmed. "Replaced with a cheaper alloy that has similar properties at standard temperatures, but becomes brittle under thermal cycling. Multiply that across thousands of arrays,
and you get exactly the failure pattern we're seeing."
She pulled up another display.
"Aaron, I have to ask, this level of system knowledge isn't typical for salvage work."
Aaron hesitated, then made a decision. If he was going to work with this woman, she deserved some measure of truth. "My sister Maya was killed in a mining accident 4 years ago. Meridian Array operated the facility. I've spent a lot of time since then studying their technical specifications and safety records."
Dr. Ash absorbed this quietly. "I'm sorry. Was it—"
"Preventable, yes. Provable, no. They're very good at covering their tracks." "I see." She turned back to the displays, but Aaron caught the thoughtful look in her eyes. "Well, perhaps this time we can ensure their tracks are more visible." A soft chime indicated an incoming message. Dr. Ash checked her comm unit and frowned. "Speaking of visibility, It seems news of your appointment has already leaked. The media feeds are speculating about the unknown technician added to the Imperial Advisory Team. Aaron groaned. So much for maintaining a low profile. It was inevitable, Dr. Ash said pragmatically. But it does mean we should expect pressure. Meridian Array won't appreciate an independent voice at the table, as if summoned by the mention of his name. Sable Karn's face appeared on one of the laboratory's news feeds. The CEO of Meridian Array was addressing a press conference, his silver hair perfectly styled, his smile practiced and cold. Absolute confidence in our systems, he was saying. The HelioShield network has protected billions of lives for over a decade. These isolated incidents, while regrettable, fall well within acceptable parameters for a project of this scope. Isolated incidents, Aaron repeated flatly. 17 million refugees. He's good at this, Dr. Ash observed. Never quite lying, but never telling the truth either. The feed continued. We welcome the upcoming negotiations and look forward to working with all parties to address these temporary disruptions. Meridian Array has always put the safety of colonial citizens first. Aaron turned away, unable to watch more. How does he sleep at night? On silk sheets in a mansion built from suffering, Dr. Ash said quietly. But perhaps that's about to change. A new voice joined them, young and eager. Dr. Ash, oh, you must be Mr. Cole. A young man in technical robes entered, carrying an armload of diagnostic equipment. Unlike the doctor's practical modifications, his robes were pristine and regulation. This is Specialist Arden from the Palace Engineering Corps, Dr. Ash explained. He'll be assisting with the technical preparations. Arden set down his equipment and extended a hand enthusiastically. It's an honor, sir. I reviewed your splint design for Princess Nia. The adaptive tension system was inspired. I've been trying to reverse engineer how you achieved that feedback loop with such basic materials. Aaron found himself warming to the young man's enthusiasm. The trick is to work with biological systems, not against them. The wing wanted to heal. I just gave it a framework. Brilliant, Dr. Ash said you have experience with cascade failure analysis. I've been modeling the HelioShield collapse patterns. But the mathematics keep showing inconsistencies. Show me, Aaron said. And soon the three of them were deep in technical discussion. Hours passed without notice. It was only when Princess Nia appeared in the doorway, trailed by an exasperated guard, that Aaron realized how late it had grown. You're still here, she said delightedly. I told Captain Thera you would be. Mother says dedicated engineers forget about time. Your Highness, the guard said firmly. You're supposed to be at your evening therapy session. I'm going. Nia rolled her eyes but winked at Aaron. Will you be here tomorrow? Every day until the conference, I expect, Aaron replied. Good. Maybe you can teach me about engineering. Mother says I need practical skills to complement my classical education. Nia, Dr. Ash said warningly. I'm just saying if I knew how to fix things, maybe I wouldn't crash into drones. Despite himself, Aaron chuckled. Pretty sure engineering doesn't prevent bad luck, Princess. No, but it helps fix things after. She gave him a meaningful look. That's important too. After she left, Dr. Ash shook her head fondly. She's been different since yesterday. More focused, more interested in the world beyond palace walls. You made quite an impression. She reminds me of... Aaron caught himself. She's a good kid. She is. And she's right about fixing things being important. Dr. Ash began organizing the data they'd reviewed. Aaron, I should warn you tomorrow's preparatory session will include representatives from various factions, including Meridian Array. Karn will be there. Probably not personally, but his people will. They'll try to feel you out, possibly attempt to compromise or intimidate you. Aaron's expression hardened. Let them try. Just be careful. You're not in the salvage yards anymore. The weapons here are words and influence, but they can be just as dangerous. As Aaron prepared to leave, Dr. Ash handed him a secure datapad. Tonight's homework: everything we have on the helioshield failures, plus the preliminary refugee impact assessments. Pleasant reading. Can't wait, Aaron said dryly.
Oh, and Aaron.
She paused at the laboratory door. Thank you for accepting this position. It's been a long time since someone around here was willing to state simple truths. Outside the Spire of Dawn, Aaron found a transport waiting, apparently being an Imperial consultant, came with certain perks. As the vehicle lifted off, carrying him back to the industrial district, he watched the palace recede and wondered what he'd gotten himself into. His comm unit chimed with a message. Unknown sender, encrypted channel. Mr. Cole, the text read, we understand you've accepted a position with the Imperial Advisory Team. Meridian Array values independent perspectives and would welcome the opportunity to discuss our shared interests. Perhaps over dinner, we could explore mutually beneficial arrangements. Aaron deleted the message without responding, but not before noting the sender's encryption signature. They weren't even trying to hide their approach. Back in his workshop, surrounded by familiar tools and salvage, Aaron spread out the data Dr. Ash had given him. The numbers were worse than he'd imagined. Crop failures, water system breakdowns, atmospheric processors overloading, all traceable back to helioshield malfunctions. But there was something else, a pattern in the failures that nagged at him. He pulled up his old files on Maya's accident, comparing dates and system logs. The correlation was there, faint but present. The helioshield failures had started almost exactly when the mining accident occurred. Aaron worked through the night, cross-referencing data, building models, searching for the connection he could feel lurking in the numbers. By dawn, he had a theory, wild, unproven, but possible. What if the mining accident hadn't been about cost-cutting at all? What if it had been a test run, a way to verify that safety systems could be remotely disabled without leaving traces? He needed proof, and he had a feeling the next few days of negotiations were going to provide exactly the opportunity to find it. As the first of Seraph Nine's sons began to rise, Aaron finally collapsed onto his cot. Today. Technically, he would walk into a room full of politicians and corporate representatives. He would sit at the same table as people who worked for the man he held responsible for Maya's death. But he wouldn't be there for revenge. He would be there to fix things, to speak truth, to make sure 17 million refugees got more than corporate excuses and political half-measures. One fixed thing at a time, he murmured, Maya's voice echoing in his memory. But some things are bigger than others. With that thought, Aaron Cole, salvage tech turned Imperial consultant, closed his eyes and prepared for the battles ahead. Chapter 3. Information War. The preparatory sessions venue was deliberately neutral, a conference center in Seraph Nine's diplomatic quarter, all glass and steel and careful blandness. Aaron arrived early with Dr. Ash, wanting to familiarize himself with the space before the political theater began. Nervous, Dr. Ash asked, as they surveyed the main conference room. Just trying to get a feel for the battlefield, Aaron replied, noting sightlines and exits out of old mining habit. Interesting choice of words. Accurate, though. He gestured at the carefully arranged seating, the strategic placement of recording equipment. This is where words become weapons. Dr. Ash smiled slightly. You're learning fast. Come, let me show you something. She led him to a technical alcove where Arden was already setting up diagnostic equipment. The young specialist brightened when he saw them. Morning. I've been running those cascade failure models we discussed. The pattern you identified is even clearer when we factor in the maintenance logs. Maintenance logs. Aaron moved to examine the data. I thought Meridian claimed those were proprietary. They did, Dr. Ash said dryly, until Her Majesty invoked emergency disclosure protocols. Amazing what Imperial authority can accomplish. Aaron studied the logs, his unease growing. Every helioshield array had the same vulnerability, a remote access protocol that could override local safety systems. It was buried deep in the code, disguised as a diagnostic routine. But it was there.
"This is it," he breathed. "This is how they're doing it. They can literally turn off safety protocols from their central command."
But why would they intentionally cause failures? Arden asked, genuinely puzzled. Aaron and Dr. Ash exchanged glances. She answered carefully. Sometimes crisis creates opportunity. Emergency contracts, relief funds, reconstruction projects, all flowing to the company positioned to solve the problem they created. That's monstrous, Arden said. That's business, Aaron corrected grimly. At least how some practice it. The room began filling with representatives from various factions. Aaron recognized the types from his mining days: corporate lawyers in expensive suits, government bureaucrats with careful neutrality, advocacy group leaders radiating righteous anger. Each group claimed their stakes with body language before a word was spoken. Mr. Cole. Aaron turned to find a woman in meridian array colors approaching. She was polished in the way only corporate executives could be, every detail calculated for effect. I'm Sandra Reeves, Senior Vice President of Strategic Communications for Meridian. I wondered if we might have a word before things begin. We can talk right here, Aaron said, not moving from his position by the technical station. Her smile never wavered. Of course. I simply wanted to welcome you to the proceedings and express our hope for constructive dialogue. Mr. Karn personally asked me to convey his respect for your unique background. My background as a salvage tech, your background as someone who understands the complexities of frontier operations. Your sister was quite talented. I understand. Such a tragedy about the accident. Aaron felt Dr. Ash tense beside him, but he kept his voice level. Yes, tragedy. Especially the part where safety protocols were mysteriously offline during a routine blast. Investigations found no evidence of tampering. Investigations run by Meridian Array found no evidence. Aaron interrupted. How convenient. Reeves's smile finally showed cracks. Mr. Cole, we're all here to solve the current crisis. Perhaps focusing on past grievances isn't the most productive approach. You're right, Aaron said, turning back to the technical displays. Let's focus on the present, like why the same mysterious safety protocol failures that killed my sister are now happening to Helios-heeled arrays across 17 colonies. The silence stretched taut before Reeves spoke again. I hope you'll maintain an open mind during these proceedings. Meridian Array has always been committed to colonial development and safety. I'll maintain an accurate mind, Aaron replied. Whether it's open depends on what I'm asked to accept. She left with another practiced smile, but Aaron caught the hard look she threw back. First blood drawn, and the session hadn't even started. That was unwise, a new voice observed. Aaron turned to find a Calarian watching him. Her forearms folded in what he'd learned was a gesture of contemplation. Making enemies before negotiations begin rarely ends well. Ambassador Thekval, Dr. Ash greeted her. May I introduce Aaron Cole, our independent technical consultant. Ah, the one who fixed the princess's wing. The Calarian's middle arms unfolded to gesture approval. An elegant solution. I reviewed the design. Your approach to biological systems integration shows unusual insight for a human. Thank you. I think it was a compliment. I am curious, why did you not patent the design? It has commercial applications. Aaron shrugged. It was built for one person to solve one problem. Making money off it never occurred to me. Fascinating. You may survive these negotiations after all. Mr. Cole, those who don't think first of profit often see solutions others miss. She moved off to claim her delegation section. The formal session began with practiced ceremony. Empress Seraphine entered with minimal fanfare, a deliberate choice that spoke volumes about her priorities. She took a seat among the delegates, rather than presiding from above. Another calculated signal. "We are here," she began without preamble, "because 17 million souls need our help. Not our politics. Not our profit margins, our help. Let us begin with truth." The next hours were a masterclass in deflection. Each corporate representative acknowledged the crisis, while carefully avoiding responsibility. Government officials cited budget constraints and jurisdictional limits. Only the refugee advocates spoke plainly, and they were largely ignored. Aaron found himself growing increasingly frustrated as he watched the dance. Data was presented, challenged, reinterpreted. Numbers that represented human suffering became abstractions to be massaged and manipulated. Finally, during a break, he couldn't contain himself any longer. "This is insane," he muttered to Dr. Ash. "They're treating this like an academic exercise." "Welcome to diplomacy," she said wearily. "This is why Her Majesty wanted someone like you here. Someone who remembers the faces behind the statistics." "Then maybe it's time to remind them." Before Dr. Ash could stop him, Aaron was striding to the main display board. He pulled up his diagnostic interface and began projecting images, not charts or graphs, but photos from the refugee camps he'd been studying. "Excuse me," the session moderator said. "Mr. Cole, visual aids should be submitted in advance." "These aren't visual aids," Aaron said, his fingers flying over the interface. "These are people. This is Tam Nguyen, age 7, from Harvest Colony. She hasn't had clean water in 3 weeks because the atmospheric processors failed." The image showed a young girl with hollow eyes, clutching an empty container. "This is the Baradin family, all 12 of them living in a cargo container, because their farmland is now a dust bowl." The display shifted to show cramped conditions, makeshift bedding, despair written in every line of adult faces, trying to stay strong for their children. "Mr. Cole," Reeves interjected, "emotional appeals aren't—" "This is Jarek Thompson, former atmosphere tech on Bounty Station." Aaron's voice hardened as he pulled up the next image. "He died yesterday from radiation poisoning because the helioshield array protecting his sector has been failing for 2 months. 2 months of reports filed, requests for repair ignored." The room had gone silent. Even the corporate representatives seemed unsettled by the steady parade of faces, names, stories. "You want data," Aaron continued. "Here's data. Every one of these people was failed by systems that were supposed to protect them. Systems that we now know can be remotely accessed and shut down." He pulled up the technical analysis. "Systems with backdoors that should never exist in safety-critical infrastructure." "That's a serious accusation," a Meridian lawyer stated coldly. "It's not an accusation. It's a technical fact." Aaron highlighted the code segments. Remote override capability, hidden in diagnostic subroutines. The only question is, who's been using it and why? "Perhaps," Ambassador Thekval interjected, "we should hear more about these technical findings. Mr. Cole, can you demonstrate this vulnerability?" Aaron looked to the Empress, who nodded slightly. "I can do better than that, Arden." The young specialist came forward with a portable helioshield emitter, a smaller version of the massive arrays protecting colonies. "This is a functional scale model. Same software, same control systems." He began setting it up on the conference table. "What exactly are you proposing?" Reeves asked sharply. "A live demonstration. I'm going to show you exactly how someone could remotely disable safety protocols on this device." Aaron's smile was sharp. Unless Meridian Array would prefer to explain why that capability exists in the first place. The corporate delegation huddled in urgent conference. Aaron used the time to complete the setup, his hands steady despite the adrenaline coursing through him. This was the moment show them proof they couldn't deny or deflect. "Proceed," the Empress said when the murmuring died down. Aaron interfaced his diagnostic tool with the emitter. Within minutes, he'd accessed the hidden subroutines and was displaying them on the main screen. "Here's the standard safety protocol: radiation limiting, thermal regulation, field strength governance, all functioning normally. His fingers moved across the interface. Now, I enter a specific command sequence using Meridian's own maintenance codes. The display shifted, showing new options appearing. And suddenly, I have access to override any or all safety features. To demonstrate, he disabled the thermal regulation. Immediately, the small emitter began heating beyond safe parameters, its casing starting to glow. Arden quickly activated an emergency containment field around it. In a full-scale array, this would cause cascading failures across an entire colony's weather management system. Aaron explained calmly. The exact pattern we've been seeing for 7 months. This proves nothing, Reeves snapped. You've shown a theoretical vulnerability. There's no evidence it's been exploited. Actually, Dr. Ash said, standing with her own datapad. There is. Thanks to Mr. Cole's analysis, we've been able to correlate maintenance logs with failure events. In every case, the remote access protocol was activated between 12 and 36 hours before the failure occurred. From where Ambassador Thekval asked the crucial question, the access codes trace back to Meridian Array's central command facility on Prime Station. Dr. Ash replied. The room erupted. Accusations flew. Lawyers threatened. Advocates demanded justice. Through it all, Aaron watched Reeves's face. She'd gone pale. But there was something else there. Not surprise, but fear. She knew. Maybe not all of it, but she knew something. The Empress raised a hand for silence. When it came, she spoke with quiet authority. These are serious findings that demand investigation. However, our immediate concern must be the ongoing crisis. Mr. Cole, what would it take to secure these systems against further tampering? Aaron had been waiting for this question. Full replacement of the control software with open-source alternatives. No proprietary code, no hidden functions. Everything transparent and auditable. Impossible, a Meridian executive sputtered. The development costs alone. I've already started the development, Aaron interrupted. With Specialist Arden's help, we've drafted a basic framework. It's not pretty, but it's functional and completely transparent. He pulled up the code structure they'd been working on. It was elegant in its simplicity, safety protocols that couldn't be overridden remotely. Period. Any changes required physical presence and multiple authorizations. This is primitive, Reeves said dismissively. Our systems are far more sophisticated. Your sophisticated systems are killing people, Aaron shot back. Sometimes primitive is exactly what you need. A hammer can't be hacked. How long to implement this across the affected colonies? The Empress asked. Aaron looked to Dr. Ash and Arden. They'd run the numbers repeatedly. 6 weeks for critical systems, 3 months for full replacement, but we'd need manufacturing priority and installation teams. You'll have them, the Empress stated. Your Majesty, Reeves protested. Meridian Array has contracts, which will be reviewed in light of these findings. In the meantime, Mr. Cole's team will proceed with emergency modifications to protect lives. The Empress's tone brooked no argument. As the session broke up in chaos, Aaron found himself surrounded by refugee advocates wanting to shake his hand, technical specialists asking for details, and corporate representatives shooting daggers with their eyes. It was overwhelming and satisfying in equal measure. You just made some powerful enemies, Dr. Ash murmured as they retreated to the technical alcove. Good, Aaron said. At least now they're in the open. His comm unit chimed another encrypted message. This time, the text was less polite. You're making a mistake, Cole. Your sister wouldn't want you to throw your life away on a vendetta. Aaron's blood ran cold. They were threatening him using Maya's memory. He showed the message to Dr. Ash, whose expression hardened. We need to increase your security, she said. No, Aaron deleted the message. They want me scared and isolated. I'm not giving them that. Aaron, besides, he forced a smile. I've got an imperial appointment to keep. Princess Nia asked me to check her wing this afternoon. The palace visit was a welcome respite after the morning's tensions. Aaron found Nia in a sunny chamber overlooking the city, practicing gentle flight exercises with a physical therapist. "Aaron," she called out, landing carefully. "Did you see the news feeds? They're calling you the rebel engineer and saying you embarrassed Meridian Array." "I just showed them their own code," Aaron said, examining her wing with practiced hands. "They embarrassed themselves. Mother says you were brilliant. She also says Mr. Karn is furious and demanding a private meeting." "I'm sure he is." The wing was healing beautifully, already showing signs of new feather growth around the injury. "How does it feel?" "Stronger every day. The therapist says I can try long flights next week." She studied him with those amber eyes. "You're not scared of them. Are you, Meridian Array?" Aaron considered lying, then decided against it. "I'm terrified. But being scared doesn't mean you stop doing what's right. That's what Mother says about ruling. That courage isn't the absence of fear, but acting despite it." She flexed her wing experimentally. "Will you teach me about the code you wrote? I want to understand how things work, not just use them. If your mother approves, I'd be happy to." They spent the next hour going over basic programming concepts, Nia proving to be a quick study. It reminded Aaron painfully of teaching Maya when she was younger. But the pain was leavened by Nia's enthusiasm. When Dr. Ash arrived to collect him, she found them both hunched over a tablet, debugging a simple program Nia had written to monitor her wing's healing progress. "I see you've recruited another engineer," she said warmly. "The best kind," Aaron replied. "One who asks why before how." As they left the palace, Dr. Ash updated him on the afternoon's developments. "The refugee camps at Harbor 3 are reporting critical water shortage. The local government is overwhelmed." "How critical?" "People will start dying within 48 hours without intervention." Aaron's jaw tightened. "Then we'd better get to work." Harbor 3 was a nightmare made manifest. What had been designed as temporary shelter for a few thousand had swelled to over 50,000 refugees. The smell hit first unwashed bodies, overflowing waste systems, the acrid scent of desperation. Aaron and Dr. Ash, accompanied by Arden and a small security detail, made their way through the crowds. Everywhere they looked, they saw the human cost of corporate negligence. Families huddled under makeshift shelters, children listless from dehydration, elderly refugees who'd lived productive lives reduced to waiting in line for water rations that might not come. "The treatment plant can't handle the load," the camp administrator explained, looking haggard. "It was designed for a tenth this population. We've requested emergency units, but the procurement process—" "Show me the plant," Aaron interrupted. What he found was a standard municipal processor pushed far beyond its limits. The filters were clogged, the circulation pumps struggling, the whole system on the verge of collapse. "Can you fix it?" Dr. Ash asked quietly. "Not fix, but maybe." Aaron was already moving, examining the nearby industrial district. "Arden, what's that facility?" "Recycling Center for Industrial Coolant, sir." "Perfect. We're going to borrow some things." What followed was 3 hours of frantic improvisation. Aaron led a volunteer force of refugees, many of them engineers and technicians themselves, in stripping parts from the recycling center. They built rough but functional pre-filters from industrial mesh, repurposed coolant circulation systems into supplementary pumps, and created a parallel processing system that took the load off the main plant. "It's not pretty," Aaron explained to the watching crowd as the jury-rigged system came online. "But it'll buy us time. Each of you knows someone with technical skills. Use them. We fix this together or not at all." Clean water began flowing. Not much, not enough for comfort, but enough to prevent immediate catastrophe. The crowd's mood shifted from despair to something more dangerous: hope. "You realize what you just did?" Dr. Ash asked, as they watched refugees organizing themselves into work crews to maintain the system. Bought time, gave them agency, showed them they're not helpless victims, but people who can solve problems. She smiled. It's quite attractive, actually. Aaron felt heat rise in his cheeks. But before he could respond, his comm unit erupted with alerts. The news feeds were going crazy. Someone had recorded his entire impromptu repair session and broadcast it live. The headlines were inflammatory. Rebel engineer saves thousands, while government debates, and corporate negligence exposed as refugees take matters into own hands. So much for keeping a low profile, Aaron muttered. But there was something else in the feeds, a statement from Sable Karn himself, announcing he would attend tomorrow's session personally to address the baseless accusations and restore confidence in Meridian Array's commitment to colonial safety. He's coming out of his tower, Dr. Ash observed. You've forced him into the light. Aaron stared at the image of Karn's practiced smile and felt his resolve harden. Tomorrow, he would sit across from the man who'd killed his sister. But it wouldn't be about revenge. It would be about the 17 million reasons to ensure it never happened again. Mr. Cole, a voice called from the crowd. A woman pushed forward, holding a small child. You probably don't remember me, Elise Santori. You saved my husband in the Gamma Station collapse. He didn't make it in the end. But you gave us 3 more days. 3 days to say goodbye. Aaron's throat tightened. I remember. Paolo. He was a good man. And he'd be proud to see what you're doing here. She hefted the child higher. This is Paula, named for him. I wanted her to meet the man who tried to save her father. The child looked at him with solemn eyes, and Aaron felt the weight of generations settling on his shoulders. This wasn't just about Maya anymore. It was about all of them, the lost, the displaced, the forgotten. We should go, Dr. Ash said gently, sensing his emotional state. You need rest before tomorrow. As they made their way back through the camp, Aaron noticed something had changed. People were working together, sharing technical knowledge, solving problems. The despair hadn't vanished, but it had been joined by determination. You started something, Arden said, wonder in his voice. Look at them. They're not waiting for rescue anymore. Good, Aaron said grimly, because I have a feeling things are going to get worse before they get better. That night, back in his workshop, Aaron sat staring at the datapad containing everything he'd gathered on Meridian Array. Tomorrow, he would face Sable Karn directly, the man who'd built an empire on others' suffering, who'd killed Maya as casually as signing a budget report. His comm unit chimed one more time. This message was different. No threats. No encryption. Just a simple text. Your sister would be proud. A friend who remembers. Aaron read it 3 times before deleting it. Somewhere out there, someone else remembered Maya, remembered what had really happened. He wasn't alone in this fight. Tomorrow would bring confrontation, possibly danger. But tonight, Aaron Cole allowed himself a moment of satisfaction. He'd shown them it was possible to fight back, not with violence or politics, but with ingenuity and determination. The revolution would be televised, and it would start with clean water and borrowed parts. One fixed thing at a time, he murmured to Maya's picture. But the fixes are getting bigger, sister. Just like you always said they would. Chapter 4. Shattered Dawn in the Great Hall. The morning of Karn's arrival brought an unexpected development. Aaron woke to find his workshop surrounded by refugees from Harbor 3, many carrying tools and salvaged equipment. What's going on? He asked the security officer assigned to him.
They've been arriving since before dawn, sir. They say they're here to help.
Aaron stepped outside to find Elise Santori organizing groups into work teams. Morning, Mr. Cole. Figured you could use some backup for whatever you're planning today. I'm attending a conference session, not leading a revolution, Aaron said, though he was touched by the gesture.
Same thing. From where we're standing, she gestured to the crowd, these folks want to show the powers that be that we're not just statistics. We're engineers, technicians, workers. We fix things. Dr. Ash arrived to find Aaron surrounded by impromptu planning sessions as refugees shared technical knowledge and organized repair teams for other camps. I see your fan club has grown, she observed with a smile. They're not fans, Aaron corrected, watching a group of former atmospheric technicians sketch out processor modifications. They're colleagues. The ride to the conference center felt different this time. News drones tracked their vehicle, and crowds had gathered along the route. Some held signs supporting the People's Engineer, while others, clearly corporate-sponsored, demanded, "Stop the saboteur." "You've become a symbol," Dr. Ash said quietly. "I just wanted to fix things," Aaron muttered. "That's exactly why you're a symbol. In a world of talk, you act." The conference center was a fortress of security. Sable Karn had arrived with an entourage that resembled a small army lawyers, technical experts, public relations specialists, and enough private security to make everyone nervous. Aaron saw him for the first time in 4 years as they entered the main hall. Karn looked exactly as he did in the broadcasts, silver-haired, distinguished, with the kind of aggressive charisma that built empires. His eyes swept the room and paused on Aaron, a slight smile playing at his lips. "Mr. Cole," Karn said, approaching with extended hand. "I've been looking forward to meeting the famous rebel engineer." Aaron stared at the offered hand, Maya's face flashing in his mind. Every instinct screamed to refuse, to denounce him here and now. But he felt Dr. Ash's steadying presence beside him and heard Nia's voice in memory. Courage isn't the absence of fear, but acting despite it. He shook Karn's hand briefly. "Mr. Karn, I understand you have concerns about our systems. I'm here to address them fully and transparently." Karn's smile never wavered. "After all, we share the same goal, the safety and prosperity of the colonies." "Do we?" Aaron asked flatly. "Because 17 million refugees suggest otherwise. 17 million victims of unprecedented solar activity," Karn corrected smoothly. "Which is why Meridian Array has prepared a comprehensive relief and reconstruction package. We're ready to commit substantial resources to solving this crisis." He was good, Aaron had to admit. Every word calculated to sound reasonable, responsible. The watching media would eat it up. The formal session began with Karn taking the floor for a presentation that was equal parts technical brilliance and public relations masterpiece. He acknowledged the failures while subtly shifting blame to unforeseeable circumstances. He presented data that contradicted Aaron's findings without directly calling him a liar. He offered solutions that sounded generous while ensuring Meridian Array's continued control. "Furthermore," Karn continued, his voice resonating with practiced authority, "Meridian Array proposes establishing a colonial safety fund with an initial commitment of 10 billion credits for immediate relief efforts." The number drew gasps and applause. Aaron watched the room's mood shift. Even some refugee advocates looked impressed. But he'd learned to read the fine print in corporate offers. "May we see the terms of this fund?" Aaron asked during the question period. Karn's smile tightened slightly. "Of course, full transparency is our goal." The terms, when displayed, were a masterwork of corporate manipulation. The funds were loans, not grants. The interest rates were reasonable, but would ensure colonial dependence for decades, most insidiously. Accepting the funds required agreeing to continued Meridian Array management of the Helios Shield systems. "You're offering to loan them money to fix problems you caused," Aaron said, not bothering to hide his disgust. "And using their desperation to maintain your monopoly." "That's a rather cynical interpretation," Karn replied. "We're offering resources and expertise during a crisis. Would you prefer we stand aside?" "I'd prefer you take responsibility." The room tensed. This was the confrontation everyone had been waiting for. Karn's expression hardened.
Responsibility, Mr. Cole. Meridian Array has protected billions of lives for over a decade. Yes, we've experienced failures. Every complex system does. But to suggest intentional malfeasance based on your amateur analysis is not just wrong, but dangerous. Amateur. Aaron pulled up his data displays. Let's talk about professional analysis then. Arden. The young specialist came forward with a new piece of equipment, a sealed processing unit, marked with Meridian Array logos. This is a control unit from the failed array at Harvest Colony, Arden explained. Recovered 3 days ago. We've maintained chain of custody, and it's been examined by 3 independent firms. Aaron connected his diagnostic tools. Want to guess what we found? On the main screen, code began scrolling the same remote override protocols, but with something new. Timestamps, access logs, a digital trail leading directly back to Meridian Array's central command. This unit was accessed remotely 6 hours before failure, Aaron announced. Safety protocols were disabled using executive-level codes, the kind only senior management possesses. The room erupted. Karn's lawyers immediately challenged the evidence, demanding verification, claiming tampering. But Aaron had expected this. Which is why we brought 3 more units from different colonies. He continued calmly. All showing the same pattern. All accessed with the same executive codes. All failing within hours of that access. This proves nothing, Karn snapped, his composure finally cracking. Those codes could have been stolen, duplicated. They could have been, Aaron agreed. Except for one thing. Each access was logged from your personal office terminal. Mr. Karn, your biometric secured, quantum encrypted, personally registered terminal. Silence fell like a hammer. Karn recovered quickly, too quickly. If true, which I don't concede, this suggests sabotage at the highest level. I'll launch an immediate investigation.
Into yourself, Ambassador Thekval interjected dryly. Into whoever has infiltrated our systems, Karn shot back. This is clearly an attempt to frame Meridian Array. A commotion at the entrance interrupted him. Refugees had gathered outside, and their chants were growing louder. Through the windows, Aaron could see the crowd from Harbor 3 had arrived, along with thousands more from other camps. Your Majesty, a security officer addressed the Empress urgently. The situation outside is escalating. But the refugees weren't rioting. They were working.
Aaron watched in amazement as they set up impromptu repair stations, demonstrated the jury-rigged water systems, showed the media their engineering solutions. It was a pointed contrast to the political theater inside. Perhaps, the Empress said quietly, we should see what the affected people themselves have to say. Against all protocol. She rose and walked to the entrance. The rest followed, even Karn, drawn by the unprecedented break in procedure. Outside, the scene was controlled chaos. Refugees had transformed the plaza into a working demonstration of survival engineering. Elise Santori stood on an improvised platform, addressing the crowd and media. They call us victims, she said, her voice carrying across the plaza. They offer us loans we can't afford for problems they created. But we're not victims. We're the people who keep the colonies running. And we're done waiting for corporate mercy. She gestured to the working displays. Everything you see here was built from salvage, by us, to save ourselves. Because when you're dying of thirst, you don't wait for board meetings, you fix the damn pipes. The crowd roared approval. Aaron felt a swell of pride and worry in equal measure. This was bigger than he'd intended. More dangerous. Your Majesty, Santori continued, spotting the Empress. We're not asking for handouts. We're asking for justice, for the right to fix our own systems without corporate interference, for the truth about why our homes were destroyed. Karn stepped forward, trying to regain control. These are admirable efforts, but hardly scalable solutions.
Mr. Karn, a new voice interrupted. A young man Aaron didn't recognize pushed through the crowd. I have something you need to see.
The man held up a data pad. My name is Thomas Chen. I was a systems analyst at Meridian Array until yesterday, until I couldn't stay silent anymore. Karn's security moved to intercept, but Imperial guards blocked them. The Empress nodded for Chen to continue.
I've been documenting irregularities for months, Chen said, his voice shaking but determined.
The remote accesses Mr. Cole found they were ordered, part of something called Project Realignment. He transmitted data to the public displays. Corporate memos appeared, discussing controlled system stress and managed crisis opportunities. The language was carefully oblique, but the intent was clear.
You manufactured this crisis,
Chen said directly to Karn, to force the colonies into deeper dependence, to justify emergency powers and reconstruction contracts. This man is clearly disturbed, Karn said coldly. A disgruntled employee.
I have recordings,
Chen interrupted.
Of you personally authorizing the Gamma Station test, the one that killed 37 miners, the one you called acceptable losses for data gathering.
Aaron's vision tunneled. Gamma Station. Maya. His hands clenched into fists as rage threatened to overwhelm him. Dr. Ash's hand on his arm was all that kept him from lunging at Karn. Play it, the Empress commanded. The recording was damning. Karn's voice, discussing the mining accident like a science experiment, calculating acceptable casualties, mentioning Maya Cole by name as a complication that was handled. Handled, Aaron repeated, his voice deadly quiet. You mean murdered? These recordings are inadmissible, a Meridian lawyer sputtered. Obtained illegally. We're not in court, the Empress said sharply. We're in the court of 17 million displaced souls. Continue, Mr. Chen. More revelations followed. The systematic nature of the failures, the profit projections from reconstruction, the plan to use the crisis to eliminate colonial autonomy entirely. Through it all, Aaron watched Karn's face. The corporate titan's expression had gone from confident to cornered, but there was still something else there, a smugness that said he believed himself untouchable. Even if every word of this were true, Karn said finally, Meridian Array's contracts are ironclad. The colonies need our technology. You can't simply... We can, Aaron interrupted, pulling up his open-source replacement code. And we did. This system can replace every helioshield array in the Empire. No backdoors, no remote access, no corporate control. And it's free. He turned to the crowd. We don't need them. We never did. They convinced us we needed their complexity, their proprietary solutions. But complexity is where they hide their control. Sometimes, the simple solution is the right one. Your amateur code couldn't possibly, Karn began. Aaron cut him off by activating a demonstration. A small helioshield emitter running his code came online. Its diagnostics displayed for all to see. Clean, simple, effective. It works, he said, because it does only what it needs to do: protect people. No hidden functions, no remote overrides, no profit margins built on suffering. The crowd's energy shifted, hope mixing with anger. Chants of open source, open access began rising. Furthermore, Dr. Ash stepped forward. Medical teams have documented the health impacts of prolonged helioshield failure, radiation exposure, atmospheric toxicity, water contamination, all preventable if the systems had been maintained properly. She displayed her data with clinical precision, each statistic another nail in Meridian Array's coffin. This isn't just corporate malfeasance, it's mass murder through neglect and greed. Karn's composure finally shattered completely. You think you've won. You think you can simply replace centuries of development with garage engineering? I built this empire. These colonies exist because of my vision. Your vision killed my sister, Aaron said quietly, but his voice carried. Your vision destroyed 17 million lives. Your vision put profit over people every single time. He stepped closer to Karn, close enough to see the fear finally flickering in the man's eyes. But visions can change, and yours is over. The Empress raised her hand, and silence fell. By my authority as sovereign of the Aurelian Empire, I hereby order the immediate seizure of all Meridian Array assets, pending full investigation. Mr. Karn, you are bound by law to remain on Seraph 9 until these matters are resolved. You can't, Karn started. I can and I have. Her wings spread slightly, a display of authority that made even Karn step back. Furthermore, the Relief and Reconstruction Accord will proceed with new terms. Mr. Cole's open-source systems will be implemented immediately, funded by Imperial emergency provisions. She turned to Aaron. Mr. Cole, I name you Master Artificer of Bridges, Chief Technical Advisor for Colonial Reconstruction. Will you accept? Aaron looked at the crowd, refugees and citizens united, holding tools instead of weapons, building instead of destroying. He thought of Maya, of her belief in making things better. I accept, he said, but only if the colonies maintain the right to modify and improve the systems themselves. No more dependence on single authorities.
Agreed. The Empress smiled slightly. After all, the best solutions often come from those closest to the problems. Karn was led away by Imperial guards, still raging about contracts and consequences. His empire had crumbled in a single morning, brought down not by violence but by truth and ingenuity.
Aaron, Dr. Ash said softly,
are you all right?
He realized he was shaking, the adrenaline and emotion of confronting Maya's killer finally hitting him.
I thought I'd feel different, seeing him fall. I thought it would fix things. Revenge rarely does, she said gently. But justice might, and rebuilding definitely will.
A small hand tugged at Aaron's sleeve. He looked down to find Princess Nia, who had somehow slipped her guards to join the crowd.
You did it, she said, eyes shining. You showed them that fixing things matters more than controlling them.
We did it, Aaron corrected, gesturing to the crowd. All of us. The plaza had transformed into an impromptu celebration of capability. Engineers shared designs, technicians compared notes, and children watched wide-eyed as simple machines came to life under skilled hands. Mr. Cole, Thomas Chen approached hesitantly. I know I should have come forward sooner. About your sister.
You came forward when it mattered, Aaron said, offering his hand. That took courage. She was brilliant. You know, Maya, we worked on the same team briefly. She was always talking about making things safer, making them better. Chen's voice cracked. I'm sorry I couldn't save her.
You honored her memory today. That matters. As the sun began to set over the plaza, Aaron found himself at the center of a revolution he'd never intended to start. But perhaps that was how real change happened, not through grand plans, but through people deciding to fix what was broken, one connection at a time. So what now? Dr. Ash asked, standing close enough that their shoulders touched. Now we get to work, Aaron said. 17 million people need homes, clean water, and working life support. We've got maybe 6 weeks before the seasonal radiation peaks hit. That's not much time. No. But we've got something Karn never understood. He gestured to the working crowd. We've got people who fix things because they need fixing, not because there's profit in it. That makes all the difference.
As if to underscore his point, a group of children ran past, carrying a small atmospheric processor they'd helped repair. Their laughter rang across the plaza, the sound of hope returning. Your sister would be proud, Dr. Ash said softly. Aaron nodded, feeling Maya's presence in the tools being shared, the knowledge being passed on, the bridges being built between those who had been kept apart. One fixed thing at a time, he murmured. But today, we fixed something big. The emergency sessions would continue tomorrow. There would be resistance from Karn's supporters, technical challenges to overcome, and 17 million souls counting on their success. But tonight, in a plaza filled with working people proving their worth,
Aaron Cole allowed himself to believe they could do it. The revolution hadn't come through violence or politics. It had come through competence, compassion, and the simple act of fixing what was broken. And it was just beginning. Chapter 5, Family. The weeks following Karn's arrest blurred together in a haze of 18-hour days and impossible deadlines. Aaron's workshop had been transformed into a command center, with holographic displays showing colony status updates, engineering teams reporting progress, and a constant stream of technical challenges requiring immediate solutions. Array 7 in the hatting sector is showing instability, Arden reported, pulling up diagnostic data. The replacement cycle isn't syncing properly with the existing infrastructure. Aaron studied the readings, his eyes burning from lack of sleep. It's the legacy power couplings. They're introducing harmonics we didn't account for. Can we install dampeners? Already tried. The local team says they're out of materials. Then we improvise. Aaron opened a channel to the hatting team. What do you have in abundance? Salvaged hull plating from decommissioned transports, the team leader responded. Mountains of it. Perfect. Use it to create Faraday cages around the couplings. Crude but effective. I'll send you the specifications. This was how it had been solving problems with whatever was available, teaching colonial teams to trust their own ingenuity over corporate protocols. It was exhausting, exhilarating, and occasionally terrifying when he considered the millions of lives depending on their patchwork solutions. You need to rest, Dr. Ash said, appearing at his elbow with a cup of stimulant tea. She'd practically moved into the workshop, coordinating medical responses to the colonies still suffering from radiation exposure. After we get hatting stable, Aaron muttered, adjusting calculations. You said that about Kara Station, and New Hong Kong, and the Pleiades mining platforms. She placed a gentle hand on his shoulder. You can't personally save every colony, Aaron. Watch me try. She sighed, but didn't argue further. They'd had this discussion before. Instead, she pulled up her own workstation and began coordinating supply drops to the colonies they'd already stabilized. A commotion outside drew their attention. Princess Nia burst through the door, her wings fully healed and bristling with excitement. Aaron, Dr. Ash, you have to come see this. Your Highness, her guard protested. You're supposed to be in your diplomatic studies. This is diplomatic, Nia insisted. It's about the colonies. Come on. Too tired to argue. Aaron and Dr. Ash followed the princess through the palace corridors. She led them to an observation deck overlooking the main plaza, where thousands had gathered. Look, Nia said, pointing to the center of the crowd. A massive holographic display showed feeds from dozens of colonies. But these weren't distress calls or status reports. They were celebrations. On Harvest Colony, children played in the midst of newly functioning atmospheric processors. On Bounty Station, markets had reopened as radiation shields held steady. On world after world, life was returning to normal. They're calling it Liberation Week, Nia explained. The colonial governments are declaring independence from corporate infrastructure control. Every colony is pledging to maintain and improve their own systems. Aaron felt his knees weaken. They'd done it. Not perfectly, not completely, but enough to give people hope and tools to save themselves. There's more, Nia said, her expression growing serious. Mother wants to see you, both of you. She said it's important. The throne room had been transformed for the occasion. Instead of the usual formal arrangement, chairs had been arranged in a circle. The Empress sat among her advisors, with several colonial representatives participating via hologram. Aaron, Dr. Ash, the Empress greeted them. Please, sit. We have matters to discuss. If this is about the resource allocation for Phase 2, Aaron began. It's not about resources, the Empress interrupted gently. It's about you, both of you. The colonial representatives have been quite vocal about their gratitude. They've made some requests I think you should hear. One of the holographic representatives, Governor Hartley of Harvest Colony spoke first. Mr. Cole, Dr. Ash, what you've accomplished goes beyond technical solutions. You've given us back our agency, our dignity. We're no longer dependent on corporate goodwill. We just provided tools, Aaron said uncomfortably. You all did the real work. Nevertheless, another representative chimed in. We want to formalize what you've started. We're proposing the creation of the Colonial Engineering Corps, a decentralized network of technical specialists committed to open-source solutions and mutual aid. We'd like you both to be the founding directors. Dr. Ash glanced at Aaron. That's quite an undertaking. You wouldn't be alone, the Empress added. The Imperial Treasury will provide initial funding, but the Corps would be independent, answerable to the colonies, not the Crown. It's what Maya would have wanted, Aaron said quietly, the words slipping out before he could stop them. Maya, the Empress asked gently. Aaron had kept his sister's story private, beyond the immediate circle, but suddenly, he felt the need to share it. My sister. She was killed in the Gamma Station collapse the one Karn used as a test for his system failures. She believed in exactly this kind of thing. Engineers helping people because it needed doing, not for profit or politics.
I think she would be very proud of what you've built,
the Empress said. About that, a new voice interrupted. There's something you need to know. Everyone turned to the entrance where Thomas Chen stood with a young woman Aaron didn't recognize. She was small, with dark hair and eyes that seemed familiar in a way that made his heart stop. Maya. The name came out as a whisper, disbelief and hope warring in his voice. The woman stepped forward, tears streaming down her face. Hello, Aaron. The room erupted in confusion, but Aaron heard none of it. He was across the room in 3 strides, pulling his sister into an embrace that nearly lifted her off her feet. How, he managed to say. The report said, I identified. A body burned beyond recognition, Maya said, her voice muffled against his shoulder. Someone who died in my place while I was pulled to safety by emergency responders, who were told to keep me hidden. Hidden by who, why? Aaron pulled back to look at her face, needing to confirm this was real. By me, the Empress said quietly. Perhaps I should explain. The room settled as the Empress continued. 4 years ago, we received intelligence about potential sabotage in the mining sectors. We placed undercover observers in key facilities. Maya was not one of them, but she witnessed the deliberate disabling of safety protocols. She documented everything. I tried to stop it, Maya said, her voice breaking. But I was too late. When the collapse started, I was helping evacuate workers. A support beam came down. A man named Eric Valdez pushed me out of the way. He didn't make it. Aaron held his sister tighter, feeling her shake with old trauma. The emergency team that reached me had Imperial intelligence connections, Maya continued. They'd been monitoring Meridian Array's activities. When they realized what I'd witnessed and documented, they made a split-second decision. If Karn knew I was alive with that information, I wouldn't stay that way long. So they faked your death, Aaron said, understanding dawning. And brought me here, Maya confirmed. I've been working as an archivist under an assumed name, gathering evidence against Meridian Array. Every safety violation, every covered-up incident, every falsified report, building a case that would stick when the time came. You've been here the whole time, Aaron's voice held a note of anger now. 4 years, Maya. 4 years I thought you were dead. I know. Her voice was small. I wanted to contact you so many times, but they were watching you, Aaron. Any sign that I was alive and you would have become a target. I couldn't risk losing you too. The anonymous message, Aaron said suddenly. Your sister would be proud. That was you. Maya nodded. I've been watching everything you've done. When you saved Princess Nia, when you stood up at the conference, when you faced down Karn himself.
I was so proud I could barely contain myself.
This is why the evidence against Karn is so comprehensive, Dr. Ash said, understanding dawning. You had an inside source documenting everything for years. The archivist voice, the Empress confirmed. Maya's work made it possible to fully prosecute not just Karn, but his entire network. Her testimony will ensure they can never harm anyone again. Aaron didn't know whether to laugh or cry. His sister was alive. 4 years of grief and guilt, and she'd been alive the whole time.
I'm sorry, Maya said, reading his expression. I know you suffered. I know you blamed yourself for not saving me. But Aaron, you did save me. Your work, your refusal to let them win it, kept me going. Knowing my big brother was out there fighting in his own way.
Fighting, Aaron laughed bitterly. I hid in a salvage yard for 3 years. You survived, Maya corrected. And when the moment came, you were ready. Look what you've accomplished. You've liberated 17 million people from corporate control. You've built something I could only dream of. We built it, Aaron said, gesturing to include everyone in the room. And you laid the groundwork with your evidence. Speaking of building, Princess Nia interjected, clearly unable to contain herself any longer.
Does this mean Maya can help with the engineering core? We could really use someone with her documentation skills?
The tension in the room broke as people laughed. Trust a teenager to cut through emotional complexity with practical questions. Actually, the Empress said, that brings us to our next point. Aaron, the position of Master Artificer of Bridges is permanent. Should you choose to accept it, it comes with certain responsibilities, but also certain privileges, including the ability to hire your own staff. Maya, Aaron turned to his sister. Want a job?
I've already got one,
she said with a small smile.
But I might be convinced to consult, especially if it means working with my brother again.
And Dr. Ash, the Empress continued. The colonial medical networks need coordination as badly as the engineering systems. Would you consider a parallel position? Dr. Ash glanced at Aaron, something warm in her expression.
I think I would. Someone needs to keep our Master Artificer from working himself to death.
Good, the Empress said with satisfaction. Then we can... Alarms suddenly filled the air. Arden burst into the room, his usual composure shattered. Your Majesty Aaron. We have a situation. The weather control systems on 3 frontier colonies just went critical simultaneously. Aaron was moving before Arden finished speaking. Dr. Ash and Maya right behind him. The command center erupted into controlled chaos as they pulled up the diagnostic feeds.
It's not random,
Maya said, her archivist training kicking in.
Look at the pattern. Someone's triggered this deliberately.
Karn loyalists, Dr. Ash suggested, making a last play.
No.
Aaron studied the code signatures.
This is different, more sophisticated, and it's not trying to cause failures. It's trying to force the colonies to revert to Meridian systems. A backdoor in the backdoor,
Maya breathed.
Brilliant and terrifying.
Can you stop it? The Empress asked, having followed them. Aaron's fingers were already flying over interfaces. Arden and Maya flanking him with support analysis. Not stop, but maybe redirect. Maya, remember that recursive loop you found in the Gamma Station logs? The one that caused feedback in the... Her eyes widened.
Aaron, that's insane.
Insane is my specialty lately. He pulled up the Colonial Communication Network. All teams, this is Cole. We have hostile code attempting to force system reversions. I need you to implement Protocol 7 immediately. Sir, came a nervous voice from Kara Station. Protocol 7 is the emergency shutdown. We'll lose everything. For 30 seconds, Aaron assured them. Trust me, and trust yourselves. You know your systems better than any corporate algorithm. On my mark, shut down, count to 30, and bring them back online using manual controls only. No automation until we clear the infection.
Aaron,
Dr. Ash said quietly. If this doesn't work, it'll work. He met her eyes. Because it's simple. And simple is harder to corrupt. Besides, you're here. That's all the luck I need. She colored slightly, but squeezed his shoulder in support. All stations ready, Arden reported. Mark, Aaron commanded. Across 17 colonies. Systems went dark. In the command center, the diagnostic feeds showed flat lines that made everyone hold their breath. Aaron counted silently, his hand finding Dr. Ash's. At 30 seconds, lights began returning. One by one, colonies reported successful manual restarts. The hostile code, deprived of automated systems to infect, dissipated like smoke. We did it, Maya breathed. They did it. The colonists trusted their own hands over corporate automation. That's the point, Aaron said, exhaustion finally hitting him. That's always been the point. People fixing things because they need fixing, not because someone else controls the solution. The Empress placed a hand on his shoulder. Well said, Master Artificer. I think this proves the wisdom of colonial independence in these matters. No central authority could have responded so quickly or effectively. It also proves we need better security protocols, Aaron admitted. Maya, I don't suppose your archives include defensive programming strategies. Actually, Maya grinned, looking more like the sister he remembered. I might have a few ideas. Fair warning, though, I learned from the best paranoid programmer I know. Who? You, dummy. All those late nights you spent teaching me to code when I was 12, I remember everything. The crisis passed. The room began to relax. Princess Nia, who had watched everything with wide eyes, suddenly hugged Aaron. This is the best day, she declared. You saved the colonies again, and you got your sister back. It's like something out of the old stories. The old stories usually have neater endings, Aaron pointed out. Are you kidding? This is perfect. The hero defeats the villain, saves the people, gets reunited with family, and, she glanced between Aaron and Dr. Ash with teenage subtlety, and finds love along the way. Nia, Dr. Ash protested, flushing. What? It's obvious you two work together perfectly. Plus, Aaron actually listens when you tell him to rest, which nobody else can manage. The princess has a point, Maya said with a mischievous smile, eerily reminiscent of their childhood. I seem to remember someone saying engineers make the best partners because they fix problems instead of just talking about them. That was you, Aaron protested. You said that. I must have been very wise of me. The Empress cleared her throat, though she was clearly suppressing a smile. Perhaps we should return to the matter of the Colonial Engineering Corps before my daughter starts planning weddings. Mother, as the formal discussions resumed, Aaron found himself surrounded by something he hadn't experienced in years. Family. Not just Maya, miraculously returned, but all of them. Nia with her irrepressible enthusiasm, the Empress with her pragmatic wisdom, Dr. Ash with her steady support, even Arden with his eager competence. Later, as sunset painted the palace in shades of gold and crimson, Aaron stood on a balcony with Maya and Dr. Ash, watching the city below. I still can't believe you're here, he told his sister. I never left, Maya said softly. Just took a different path to the same destination. We both wanted to stop them. Aaron, we both wanted to fix things. One fixed thing at a time, they said in unison, then laughed. I should probably ask, Dr. Ash said with gentle humor. Is this a family motto? Something our mother used to say, Aaron explained. When the world seemed too broken to handle, one fixed thing at a time, and eventually you've fixed the world. Your mother was a wise woman. She would have liked you, Maya said to Dr. Ash. She always said Aaron needed someone who could match his stubbornness with sense. Fortunately, Dr. Ash replied with a warm glance at Aaron. I have experience with stubborn engineers. A comfortable silence fell as they watched the city lights beginning to twinkle. Somewhere out there, Colonies were maintaining their own systems, solving their own problems, free from corporate control. It wasn't perfect, there would be challenges, setbacks, probably more crises, but it was a beginning. "So what happens now?" Maya asked. "Now we build something better," Aaron said. "The engineering core, the medical networks, all of it. We teach people to trust their own capabilities again. And Karn faces trial next month. Your evidence will ensure he never hurts anyone again." Maya nodded, a weight visibly lifting from her shoulders. Then it was worth it. The hiding, the fear, it was all worth it. "You're worth it," Aaron corrected, pulling his sister close. "Though if you ever fake your death again, I'm grounding you until the heat death of the universe." "Noted," Maya laughed. "Though technically, can you ground someone who's technically dead?" "I'm a master artificer now. I'll figure something out." Dr. Ash's comm unit chimed. She glanced at it and smiled. The final colony just reported full stabilization. 17 million people, all safe. "We should celebrate," Maya suggested. "We should sleep," Aaron countered. "We should do both," Dr. Ash mediated. "Dinner first, then Aaron finally gets some rest." "I like her," Maya stage whispered. "Definitely keep this one." As they headed inside, Princess Nia intercepted them, practically vibrating with excitement. "There you are. Mother says we're having a feast to celebrate. And Maya, I have so many questions about your archival work. And Aaron, when do we start the next project? And Dr. Ash." "Breathe, Your Highness," Dr. Ash advised with fond exasperation. "I'm just excited everything's working out perfectly. The colonies are free. The bad guys in prison. Families are reunited. And," she paused, looking at them all with sudden seriousness beyond her years. "And we proved that fixing things matters more than controlling them. That's important, isn't it?" "The most important thing," Aaron agreed. "Then we should keep doing it," Nia declared. "Fix things. I mean, not just the colonies, but everything. Education, communication, transportation, all of it could be better if we just trusted people to help fix it." "One fixed thing at a time," Maya murmured. "Exactly, see. She gets it." Nia grabbed Maya's hand. "Come on. I want to hear about everything you documented, for historical purposes." As the princess dragged his sister away, Aaron found himself alone with Dr. Ash for the first time all day. "She's not wrong, you know," Dr. Ash said quietly. "About any of it." "The fixing things." "That too," she smiled, and Aaron felt his heart skip in a way that had nothing to do with exhaustion. "Leora." "What?" "My given name. I realize we've been through a revolution together and you still call me Dr. Ash." "Leora," he repeated, testing it. "It's beautiful." "So is what you built here," she replied. "What we all built. Aaron, I know," he said softly. "Me too, but maybe we could take it one fixed thing at a time," she suggested with a smile. "Something like that." She took his hand as they walked toward the feast, and Aaron marveled at how much had changed. 6 weeks ago, he'd been a bitter salvage tech hiding from the world. Now he was master artificer of bridges, architect of colonial freedom, and surrounded by people who had become family. The feast was everything Princess Nia had promised: chaotic, joyful, and filled with hope. Colonial representatives attended by hologram, raising toasts to freedom and ingenuity. Maya regaled the table with stories of her more ridiculous archival discoveries. Nia pestered everyone about technical details for her own education. Even the Empress relaxed her usual formality, laughing at Arden's awkward attempts to explain quantum mechanics to the palace staff. "A toast," the Empress proposed as the evening wound down. "To those who fix things, not for glory or gold, but because they need fixing. To the bridges built between peoples. To the wings that carry us forward. To family," Aaron added, looking around the table. "In all its forms." They drank, and Aaron felt something settle in his chest, a peace he hadn't known in years. The future stretched ahead, full of challenges and possibilities. There would be more systems to fix, more bridges to build, more people to help. But tonight, surrounded by those he loved and who loved him in return, Aaron Cole was content. He'd started by fixing a little girl's wing. He'd ended up helping fix an empire's future. "One fixed thing at a time," he murmured, raising his glass once more. "One fixed thing at a time," the others echoed. And in that moment, with Maya alive beside him, Leora's hand in his, and Nia already planning their next adventure, Aaron knew his mother had been right all along. Fix enough things, and eventually you fix the world. Even better, sometimes the world fixes you right back.